I don't think you can build a successful personal brand without putting yourself out there on video and giving people the chance to get to know you.
Danny is a coach and content creator who specializes in helping business owners grow their brands and attract clients on LinkedIn by using the power of video.
I never thought I was going to start my own company. Entrepreneurship was not really in the cards for me.
With a 20-year background in sales leadership and sales training, Danny knows how to create content and engagement strategies that convert. His unique process makes creating video easy, fast, and comfortable, even if you're camera shy.
So when people tell me, how do you do this? How do you record? I tell them we do it in a virtual studio.
How do you recommend to start a productized service, choose the right channel, and validate the idea?
To be honest, that's the number one thing that you can do.
I'm your host, Gabe Marusca with the Nomad Solopreneur Show. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. You know, algorithms love that, right? Thank you so much. Without further ado, let's jump straight into it. Hey, Danny, welcome to the Nomad Solopreneur Show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Excited to have you, man, and can't wait to dig in your story because you're one of the most popular people on LinkedIn, and both of us believe 2024 is the year of the video, finally on LinkedIn as well.
I agree. I think it's overdue on LinkedIn.
I know that you weren't into this business for all your life. You work in sales for so long. What made you transition?
You want the short or the long version? I started off in sales. I had a pretty long sales career, worked my way up from retail sales rep, moved my way into business to business sales, then made my way into sales leadership, training, and really ran the gamut as far as roles that I held when it came to sales. And then I never thought I was going to start my own company. Entrepreneurship was not really in the cards for me. I was on a really good trajectory with my company. I was doing really well. I was a director. I managed a team of 60 people. So I did not foresee this coming, but then my company got acquired and I ended up kind of going back to square one. And I actually ended up taking a individual contributor sales role in March of 2020 of all times. So timing on that was a little bit crazy. So during that time, I was like, hey, you know what? I want to get back into, podcasting. And I kind of left out that part of the story. But during my time that I was in sales, I did podcasting as a habit. I started a podcast with a friend of mine. We called it the Ocho Podcast. We just kind of BS about TV and movies, and we had a lot of fun. And then I started another podcast about the TV show Impractical Jokers. And it was a time when there was a lot of podcasts about TV shows. So like Game of Thrones was a big TV show. Breaking Bad was a big TV show. And those shows had hundreds of podcasts. But Impractical Jokers had 0 podcasts. So I was like, you know what? It's my favorite show right now. I'm going to start my own podcast about it. So I did this podcast and something kind of cool happened. It just blew up. 400,000 downloads, over 60 episodes. We grew a giant social media following. I think across all the social media platforms, we had about 15,000 followers. And I ended up getting a lot of really good guests. So producers, writers. I had the executive producer of the show as a guest. And one of the 4 stars of the show actually came on and was a guest in one of the episodes.
Man, that's brilliant.
Yeah, so that's how I kind of got into the content creation side of things. But again, this was all a hobby. I wasn't at all, monetizing the podcast. I was doing it all for fun.
Why did you stop?
It was a tough one. So I had a co-host for it and he quit. So he had to, he had just had a second kid and he was getting busy at work. And then I got promoted at work and I started doing a lot of travel. So it was really hard to coordinate schedules. And what I was trying to do was I was trying to keep the podcast going, but do an interview every week and try to arrange all the people from the show to do the interviews. Got a little bit crazy and I kind of just sunsetted it. It was hard. It was a hard decision to do because I really liked it. But again, I was doing it for free and it was a lot of work. And I had just had a kid at the time too, my first one. So it was time to move on from it. At the end of 2020, I said, hey, you know what? I want to start doing something on the side again and, having some fun. And I decided to do another podcast. And I decided to do a different type of podcast. And I was like, oh, I've done it before. I'll grow it. It's no problem. It was not growing at all. It was doing terrible. So I joined this podcast mastermind group, and it was led by this guy, Travis Brown. And Travis, kind of as we started to get to know each other and he started to learn a little bit more about me, he was the coach of this podcast mastermind. He goes, you need to stop podcasting and start a coaching business. He goes, you have a ton of knowledge around business and sales. And he's like, people need what you have. He goes, put the podcast on hold, go start a coaching business. And then at some point you could start a podcast that serves that business. And that's how I started my own company. I started coaching. I had a couple of clients, and I was coaching people on basically the two things that I knew really well. I knew how to grow an audience and build a brand on social media, and I knew how to sell. So the idea was like basically teaching people how to grow their brand so that they can sell their product, service, whatever it was. And what I learned was I would tell my clients, I was like, look, in order for you to be able to do this successfully, you need to be on video. You cannot build a personal brand without video. That may be a controversial statement or not. With LinkedIn, it's a little bit of a controversial statement. If you're on any other platform, it's not. But I don't think you can build a successful personal brand without putting yourself out there on video and giving people the chance to get to know you. So I was kind of steering my clients in that direction, like, here, you need to do this. And I noticed that there was a couple of problems. Number one was people were extremely uncomfortable making videos. And number two is that they could not keep up with, or even if they were good on camera, there was a lot to making videos. There was editing and filming and scripting and all these things. And I realized, wow, this is something that people really struggle with. And I had one guy, he was a coaching client of mine and a longtime friend, known each other since we were like 14 years old. And I told him, I said, look, you got to make some videos. So here's exactly what to say. Go film it on your own, and I will help you with like how to edit it. So he's sure, no problem. So he goes and he films it and he sends it to me. And I'm just like,
Oh boy.
I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, this is the worst. I can't work with this. And the funny thing is, this guy is like super outgoing, handsome, well-spoken. I'll turn the camera on and it's like a whole nother story, right? So I said to him, I was like, all right, I can't work with you video, but how about this? Come into Riverside with me and I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions about real estate. He's a real estate agent. And I'm going to ask you a bunch of real estate questions. Just answer them. So he comes in, we record for about 20 minutes. I got enough footage to make 10 videos.
Nice.
And I was like, think I might have something here. And so I started to run with it. I started to kind of say, hey, you know what? Could I do this for other clients? And I had a couple clients that kind of came on board and I was doing it for them. But I was trying to promote it on Instagram. And I was really struggling to promote the business on Instagram. Very saturated. Everybody's already doing video. It was not really working at all. And then I decided, I was like, hey, you know what? I got this coaching side of my business and then I got this video content creation thing. So let me focus more on the coaching. I'm going to go over to LinkedIn because I think I'm going to have more success getting coaching clients on LinkedIn. And then I noticed an interesting thing about LinkedIn. And it's that people don't really know what to do with video on LinkedIn. They don't know how to do it. They don't know how to incorporate it into their strategy. They don't know how to execute it. But they also see the value and they see the potential in it. So I was like, I came here to do the coaching, but I really think my video service might play well here. And then I got the ultimate opportunity, which was, I was following all these, kind of influencer types on LinkedIn. And one of the people that I was following is Leah Turner, who I knew from Instagram. I had seen her post on Instagram a whole bunch. And there's a couple people that were in my network that are well connected to her as well. And she posted something on Twitter. And she said something about my videos are on LinkedIn in a strange turn of events. My videos on LinkedIn are doing better than all my other content from an engagement perspective and from a leads perspective. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then she made another comment that said something about, too bad I hate doing them. And I was like, okay, I'm making my move. So I reach out to her and I send her a message and I say, hey, look, you're obviously really well respected on LinkedIn. And I have this service and I don't really know whether it's a good fit for the LinkedIn community or not. And I was hoping that maybe if I shared it with you, you could just tell me whether you think it's a viable service and whether people on LinkedIn would be interested. So I explain the whole thing. I say, hey, you come into a studio, it's virtual. I ask you a bunch of interview questions. We hit the record button. And then by the end of the thing, I have enough to cut 12 videos, and my team, they go in and they make, they add the captions and the bells and whistles and all the edits, and they make them look great. And I said, do you think that this is something that people on LinkedIn would be interested in? And people should be lined up to buy that. So I said, okay, all right. And I said, well, what about you? You interested? And I'm like, no charge, free of charge. I was like, I will do this with you. I'll record some videos for you. And all I ask is that you share, testimonial, or just when you share the videos, you tag me, whatever. That's it. So she's, yeah, sure. Why not? So we scheduled it. She canceled, canceled again, just rescheduled it like a bunch of times. It took about 2.5 months before we actually did the recording. Then she was posting the videos on Instagram, but she wasn't posting the videos on LinkedIn. And I was like, oh God, I was trying to sell it on Instagram and not having any success. So my ad doesn't really help me out. And then finally, she posts one of the videos on LinkedIn. But not only does she post it, but she writes a testimonial very specific to working with me and how simple the process is and how easy and affordable and everything. And she posted this she's in the UK, so it's 3:00 in the morning my time. And I get up early. I'm an early riser. I get up at 4:35 a.m. my time. So I get up at 4:35 a.m. and I've got an inbox filled with connection requests and messages and everything. And I'm like, what the hell happened? And I go and I look, and it's Leah Turner posted the video and the testimonial. And I signed 6 clients that morning. And I have been nonstop signing clients for that service since.
I love the way you validated in the first place, going heads first and trying on someone to see, I actually have something here, or is just me being crazy about this idea because I'm passionate about or something. And on that note, after you get a lot of leads and you validate the idea, how do you make sure you can deliver? How many teammates do you have in order to be able to leverage this?
I'm still technically a solopreneur because I don't have any employees of my business. Everybody that I work with is essentially freelancers. But right now I have a video editing team, and it's a company that I work with, young guy out of Miami, Florida, who does a great job with all the editing for our clients. And then I have a creative director. His name's James, just actually revealed his identity to the world the other day in a post. But yeah, James has been doing his thing. I found him through Instagram. And the reason that I found him is because he makes his own videos every day. He basically posts a video on Instagram every day, but he's an amazing interviewer. He's done over 200 podcasts. And he actually had Seth Godin was like a guest on his podcast. And he's had a lot of other big guests too. That's just the big name that kind of like sticks out. But he's had a lot of really great guests on his podcast. And I asked him if he would be interested in coming over and starting to work with some of our clients. So he was like, I kind of explained to him how it worked. And I was like, I think you can fit the bill for what I do. And he's, yeah. And he just came in, did like a couple of sessions, observed, and then was off and running. And he does a great job with all of our clients. I'm really excited to have him. And so I have James, I have the editing team, and then I have my man Mark, who does all the kind of admin stuff that I suck at. So when the new videos come in, Mark sends them out to the client. He checks with them, makes sure that they don't need any revisions, things like that. Handles all the communications back to the editors for revisions, then delivers the final videos back to the clients. So all these kind of things that I was dropping the ball with, like getting edits done and stuff like that, Mark takes care of that and runs with it.
So smooth, like you have just a handful of people that take care of everything, and you basically leverage your personal brand. I assume you connect with the big creators on LinkedIn in order to make sure that human connection between your personal brand and them it's taken care of. And after that, everyone else takes care of their part. And how do you make sure that James knows what type of questions to ask your clients in order to make sure that the messages that you spread out there are valuable for them and are actually achieving their goals?
I do the branding, marketing, and sales at this point. I do very little of the actual execution. There are some clients that I do work with one-to-one, still helping with the production. But for the most part, James handles like 95% of the clients that we work with. Now, as far as the question and everything goes, the way that our onboarding process works is that our clients come in and they basically fill out a form that tells us everything that we need to know about their business and who their target market is and what are the main topics that they are comfortable speaking about. And then what we do is we have a couple of different resources that we go to research the clients. So, for example, like one of the things that we use is Answer the Public. So we will go and look and see what is this person's target market Googling? What questions do they have? What problems do they have? And then we go and research viral content on some of the other platforms. Like we use TikTok, we use Instagram, we use YouTube, we use Medium. We kind of look at all these platforms and see what type of content is performing well, what hooks are performing well. And then we gear the questions around, again, the target market and what's hot and trending and everything like that. And to make sure that we are always on point. And the thing with the clients is we never go outside of their area of expertise. So although we don't have our clients prepare anything beforehand, we try to and we have clients who are like, I need the questions and this and that. And for some clients, we will make the exception just because they refuse to not know the questions beforehand. But for the most part, we try not to give them any indication of what the questions are beforehand because we want people's authentic responses. That's the value of what we bring, is that we are able to bring out the best of our clients on camera because we are asking questions that are within their area of expertise, in their zone of genius or whatever, however you want to call it. And what I find is that when people start to prepare for the interviews, then what happens is when they have this kind of expectation of how it goes, and when their video or what they're saying is not meeting the expectation of what they have for it, then they start to get frustrated. And when you start to get frustrated, that's the worst thing when you're making video because it shows up on camera that you're frustrated and you're flustered and whatever, unless you're like really good at hiding it. I kind of went all over the place there. But for the most part, we do a bunch of market research to understand the problems that the clients are having and to understand people's target markets and niches. And that's how we prepare to go in and talk to all of our clients.
I really like that approach, especially because indeed, if you prepare yourself a lot for something, you tend to overdo it, or as you mentioned, to have certain expectations, you don't meet them, and then you go overboard. And you mentioned at the beginning that you notice these patterns that people are either camera shy or they struggle to be on camera. How do you approach that part?
So we typically get two types of clients. We get clients that are very confident to speak on camera. I believe you had Pascal on the call on the podcast before. So like she doesn't need any like camera coaching. She's got this big personality. We ask her a question and she just runs with it. And like Ryan Musselman is another one, same way. Like Ryan's a machine. I ask Ryan a question and he doesn't even think. He just spits out the answer. I'm like, I don't even know how you do that. So we take a different approach for those types of clients. We basically it's more along the lines of like us feeding them the hooks and just trying to get the best out of, giving them the hook, letting them get into the video, and then getting their amazing insights from there. For the clients that are a little bit more, camera shy or a little bit like they're not as comfortable, we treat it way more conversational, right? So we will sit there and just kind of ask you questions, but just ask that every time you answer a question, that you just repeat the question for context. For example, if I say something like, what is the number one tip that you would give for your clients or something like that, right? Or what's the first thing that you would tell when you onboard a new client? They would say, okay, so the first thing that we say when we onboard a new client is, and we kind of go into that and just, again, but make it very conversational as opposed to making it where people feel like they have to put on a performance. Like they're sitting there and having a conversation with us. And I think because James is such a good interviewer, he's the perfect person to do it because he makes it very comfortable for them to sit there and have a conversation.
That's interesting approach. And especially because if I think from outside, of course, without being involved in your business, I'm thinking the kind of person like Ryan or Pascala, you finish a session with them extremely quick. But when it comes to someone that is camera shy or they're having a tough time, even by this approach of conversational, do you guys find that you have to do more time with them?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes our clients that are more comfortable on the camera can bang out a session in like 15, 20 minutes, right? Like I think like Ryan's a really good example. Like I think I've recorded 12 videos with Ryan in 15 minutes before. But then there's also times where, we provide a lot of coaching throughout the sessions for those folks too. And I've shared this with some of the behind the scenes videos that I've been putting out there of, what it looks like inside one of our sessions. So we would say something like, hey, this is how I envisioned your response to this question. And the reason that I envisioned it this way is because I think it's a really good way to call out to this particular service that you have. Because I didn't really mention this before, but one of the other things that we do is we look at what offers people have and what are the priorities that people have in their business right now. So some people who are looking to just kind of grow their following and grow their influence, just become more of a thought leader, we won't necessarily have call to actions. We won't really prioritize call to actions as much in the videos. Whereas, if I have people that I feel like, hey, they have a really good service a proven offer that they can sell right now, and their video speaks to the value of that proven offer, then we kind of gear them into a call to action on that proven offer. So sometimes some of that, working that part out of it, takes a little bit longer. But yeah, typically the other sessions could run a little bit longer and do take a little bit more work on James and my part to provide a little bit more coaching and a little bit more direction for those clients.
And apart from this, what other type of challenges you encounter so far when running this business?
So I would say like the biggest challenge that I have is that I just didn't really know how to run a business. I'm really good at branding. I'm good at marketing. I'm good at sales. Obviously 20 years of sales experience, but the operations and all the little things that need to get done, I really suck at all that. So I have a great coach that helps with that. I also have invested in obviously bringing some of the people in. I have, Mark to me does all of our customer success. That's how I look at what he does. It's a little bit of operations, but to me, it's customer success. So I'm using the strengths of the people like around me. Right now, my workflow system, although it's fine, could use a little boost. So I hired somebody to kind of help streamline our workflow. So when a new client signs in, the onboarding form gets automatically sent to Mark, it gets automatically sent to James, and then the client gets scheduled and people are getting alerted, and then as it's kind of moving through the workflow, we are kind of doing some automations to keep track of that, as opposed to right now where everything is a manual process. So I think it's just, and then as far as the other challenges, yeah, I would say that sometimes it's challenging. There's certain clients that are challenging to get to perform well on camera, and it takes a little bit more effort and a little bit more work, and it takes a little bit more effort on our editors' parts, and they do a really good job with that too. So they can, by the way that they can speed things up and the way that they can cut at certain points, they can actually really enhance a person's on-camera presence through on the back end, which is really interesting.
I tried that on my own skin, to be honest. As you probably can tell, since I'm just at the beginning with all this podcasting thing, sometimes I struggle to be myself on camera or getting a bit emotional, or maybe, I don't know, I have a guest that it's a thought leader or someone that I look up to, and I'm just staying there being emotional. I don't find my words. And yeah, editing does amazing job, like, or simply re-recording that part or something.
Yeah. I'll tell you a podcast story. So this was when I started the newer podcast, the one that I was telling you was kind of failing. And I reached out and I got a pretty big guest, and she was like a real well-known entrepreneur. I think she's got like 1 million followers on Instagram. She got a big following on LinkedIn and everything too. And I I froze up on this like interview with her because I had these questions prepared, and she answered the questions like so quickly, and I was expecting it to go longer. And now I've recorded with her for 8 minutes or something like that, and I was hoping to get a 20-minute episode, and I was like out of questions, and I'm like, oh shit. And then I just froze up and didn't know what to do from there. And ultimately I ended up kind of getting my groove towards the end and being able to ask some more additional questions. And when we edited that podcast, it came out amazing. And my podcast coach, Travis, or whatever, he was like, wow, that podcast was excellent. It was really good. And I was like, you should hear the unedited version because it's absolute shit. Sorry, I don't know if you have an expletive on here, but
Yeah, I love that, because happened to me as well. Is the episode with Chris Do, and it was one of the first episodes I ever recorded. And yeah, I was like standing there asking some questions. The questions were decent and good and guided the conversation in the right way. But the problem was how I asked those questions and how I expressed myself. It was a total mess. So I literally sit after that and re-record those questions the way I imagined that I would ask them live. And it ended up being a good episode, but man.
like I said, I kind of lost. And I've done like a lot of interviews before, and for some reason, this one, I think I put a little bit of pressure on myself. And I think one thing I've learned about podcasting in particular is I feel like everybody who does podcasting in the beginning thinks that if they get really good guests, that's what's going to make their podcast. And it's just not true. I mean, it helps, but people don't come necessarily to the podcast for your guests. Like they come back for you. They may come to listen to one episode because of that particular guest, but what keeps them coming back is you, right? I think I just put a lot of pressure on myself for this episode because I thought that if I nail this episode and I get, this great interview with Heather, then it's going to be like amazing. And, people are going to listen. And I did a 10-minute episode about how I quit fantasy football, which was my own episode, like me recording, and I got 10 times as many plays as
Whoa.
the one that I had with this giant, like popular guest.
If you were to restart podcasting now while running your business, how do you balance that?
Yeah. So I'm going to start podcasting again. I have it all planned out. But here's the thing. I'm not really going to do it for my business, I'm going to do it for me because my coach actually asked me this recently. So, what do you do for fun? And I was like, I don't know, work, make videos, you know? And I, and I think what I used to do for fun was podcasting. I think that was what I was doing, and it was really enjoyable. So when I bring my podcast, my podcast will definitely be related to the business, right? Like there will be, but my podcast will be related to the business, but I don't really have any expectations for it. Like I don't care if it like blows up to be this big thing or if nobody really listens. The last podcast that I did was called For My Sons. Okay. And when the reason that I created the podcast and my thought process behind the podcast was that I was going to create this podcast with people that were in my network and just people that I looked up to, people that I respected. And I was going to kind of just interview them and talk to them and get information from them and, and kind of leave that as a kind of time capsule thing for my sons. That was the idea. But it turned into something completely different. It turned into a parenting podcast. It became the dad podcast. And it was like everything was all the people that I was like interviewing. It was all the, kind of content creators who were creating content for dads. And it wasn't what it wasn't what I originally envisioned. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically bring it back. I'm not going to call it For My Sons anymore, but that's how I'm going to treat it. I'm just going to treat it as like cool interviews with people that, have been influential or inspirational like in my life. And like the idea is obviously to kind of leave that as like, hey, this is something that you guys can listen to when you get older and get some really cool like insights and, from people that I appreciate and respect.
I love that idea and the fact that you bring back something that you love doing. Of course, you enjoy so much working with your clients and doing videos and so on. And you can tell by a mile when I watch your videos on LinkedIn, and every single time you are so alive, you're full of energy and spreading that energy. And that's so important because otherwise it's just pointless to do anything. And bringing back into your life something else that you enjoy just for the sake of it, I think is something that a lot of business owners miss. And apart from that, what else do you do?
Yeah. So like, I mean, outside of work, I'm into health and fitness, been like extremely overweight. I've been working on, like, I've lost like over 80 pounds at this point. That's an important part of my day. Like every day I do 10,000 steps every day. I lift, I make sure to go to the gym and lift 4 days a week. I make sure to eat relatively clean. So that's, something that is part of my regular schedule. I cook pretty much every day. So I would say that's probably like my hobby at this point is cooking. I cook dinner for the family every night, eat dinner with the family every night. We sit down at the table and eat together. I'd say that. And then just, getting some time in with the kids, whether that's running around outside, playing basketball, going riding bikes, or playing Legos, or even just, watching TV, like hanging out with them. That's what kind of keeps me busy these days.
Love that. And for all those that listen out there and they say, oh my God, I'm so freaking busy and I cannot do anything, then is the proof that you can actually run a successful business, spend time with your family, valuable time, and also soon starting a hobby again. And circling back to your business and especially around your service, you have a productized type of service with your video offering. Can you expand a bit of that for those listening to kind of understand what exactly they get?
What I have is a couple of different options, right? So the service is called Video Made Easy, essentially. And, you come in, we do the recording with you, you get your edits, 2 weeks, you have all your videos. And the way that I sell it is I sell it as a single one-time session. So you can get a single one-time session for $750 US for now. Price is subject to change. Anyway, so yeah, so you come in, you do one-time session, $750, you get your videos and you're covered with 12 videos, right? So for anybody that posts, 2 to 3 videos a week, you're talking about a month, 6 weeks of video content. And then for people that want to do like a longer commitment, I have 3 session packages, right? So essentially you can come in, you can buy a 3 session package where you come in and record 8 videos at a time. That's more for people that want to post 2 videos a week. They can come in, they do a recording session, we record 8 videos. Then if you spread that out each month, that would give you basically 2 videos a week. And then I have another one, which is same thing. You pay for 3 sessions. It's 36 videos though, 12 videos per session. And that goes for $19.97. So 2000 basically for a 3-month commitment. If you're committing to more time and more videos, the price obviously goes down. The cost per video goes down. Now I've gotten into something a little bit different. So one of the things that we provide to our clients with their videos is we provide them the transcript of the conversation that they had. And we also provide them a guide to help them use the transcript to repurpose it into written content as well. Especially for
Nice.
LinkedIn, everybody's trying to write more content. So basically, and the guide has some prompts and ideas for how they can go ahead and use that video footage to make additional content with it. Sales posts, carousels, captions for the videos, everything. And what I've gotten from clients is, hey, I really appreciate this whole repurpose thing, Danny, but can you just do it for me? Which is now the next facet of my business. So video made easy is kind of evolved into content made easy. So now I have quite a few video clients who we are also doing copywriting and taking their video content and turning it into additional posts. So now what we have going on is this content made easy program where somebody can actually come in, spend basically 1 hour a month with us, making their videos, a little bit of strategy. And at the end of 1 hour, they're getting a whole month's worth of content.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. So that was the next iteration. So people were like, hey, Danny, can you do it for me? And I'm like, well, I'm not a writer. So what I do? I hired one. So I got a writer. I hired a copywriter again. And they're just now I take the videos, I hand it off to a copywriter. He does an amazing job of, helping people and it's great too, because, a lot of people hire ghostwriters or they hire, somebody to help write content for them. And they lose a lot of the authenticity of who they are and their voice and everything. But because of the fact that we are adding this element of the video recording, and we're actually capturing people's words and their thoughts and their ideas and their voice and their tone and everything on camera, we're able to really replicate that in the written word too. It's the next iteration.
Yeah, I love how you evolve the product because that's often the case. Like you start with something and you notice demand or people literally asking you, can you do that for me as well? Can you do the other thing as well? Wonder what will be next for you now, because I think done for you services are goal for business owner and in general founders that are so busy running their own business that just sitting on LinkedIn and creating on any other platform, creating content is just a chore. And you publish the content for them as well, or you just handing it over at this point?
No, at this point, I hand it over. I do have the option to redirect them to somebody that I trust very much and that I recommend my clients to all the time to help with the distributing the content out on the platforms, as well as helping to amplify it with some additional engagement services and things like that as well. So I have somebody that I feel extremely confident that I trust with my clients.
Nice. How many clients you can handle at any given moment?
Yeah, so given the fact that I have a whole team in place for this, I can probably handle 80 clients at the moment
Nice.
before I would need to bring in more people. With the video, I can handle more. If we're doing it with the Content Made Easy program, that's a little bit more because, again, I get involved and I work on the strategy side of things for those clients. I also run a community where I teach people all this stuff and all the things that I've learned and how to use LinkedIn. And all of my clients that are in that Content Made Easy program get access to the community. And the reason that I do that is because I want them to be able to capitalize on the content that we are creating for them. And my community is really all about how to create content and then go out and capitalize on it at the same time. I give them access to that as part of the subscription. They get access to that community as well.
That's brilliant. And what do you say is the biggest mistake you made in running this business?
Wrong marketing channel, hands down. Don't even have to think about it. I spent months and months trying to promote this service on Instagram and creating all this content and everything around it. And the second I came over to LinkedIn and started validated the offer and found the right channel, the business started taking off. So that was definitely the biggest mistake, was putting all my eggs in the wrong basket.
And how do you recommend someone that want to start a productized service, doesn't matter the niche, to choose the right channel to market their business and validate the idea and so on?
To be honest, I work for free. That's the number one thing that you could do, is go out, do some work, offer it out to people for free, and build up that social proof, that credibility. That's how I did this whole thing. I would have never been able to grow this business the way had I not gone to Leah Turner and offered her free work. Had I not gone to Luke Matthews, I've worked with, and the first time I worked with Luke, I was like, hey man, this is on the house. And then he hired me to do more. And same with Ryan Musselman too. I offered it to Ryan and he took me up on it. And now he's a paying client. So I have not had one time where I did free work that I did not get a giant return on investment from it. Whether it was because the person that I did the free work for became a paying client, or whether they just recommended people to me because I did a good job and they liked the service and liked what we had to offer.
That's an underrated advice, because often if you have an amazing service and you know that is valuable to your target audience, why not just, as Danny did, do it for free, show it out there? You might get a testimonial, or you might get a referral, or you get paying clients. It's just that easy. And we tend to overcomplicate things and we end up in situations where we struggle to get leads and so on. But getting clients is not that hard if you are a bit creative.
Yeah, there's something to be said for doing some work already and showing people, hey, here's a little sample of what I can do for you. So I know somebody that recently did that for me, not gonna lie. They gave me a little bit of sample of what they do. And, that built a lot of credibility. That builds a lot of trust. And the next time I think about, hey, you know what? This is a service that I need. And who's the person I'm going to hire? I'm going to hire that person that came to me and was like, here, I just put this together for you. And whether it takes you a lot of time, a little bit of time, it's a small investment. Like all of these people that I worked with, it's a small investment. I paid for their video editing. I gave them a half hour to 45 minutes of my time. That was it. Basically to blow up my business, essentially. I would highly suggest just going out there, doing some of the work, giving people a little bit of taste, giving people a sample. There's nothing like that would help. It's the same with content too. It's like the best content is the content that helps people think about what it would be like to be your client, puts themselves in the shoes of your client. And if you are providing that experience to them and saying, oh, wow, this is what it would be like to work with Danny. And that's it. That's how you bring people into your business.
And the way you do that with those behind the scenes is brilliant. Literally, you can imagine yourself sitting with you or with James and actually being your client. And speaking of that, where people can get in touch to connect with you and work with you?
The best place is LinkedIn. You can always find me there. Message me on LinkedIn, or coachdannyd.com is my website. So you can come in and check out my website. I've got my video and my community. Everything is on there. For anybody that's looking to do video themselves, I have a 7-day video challenge, which is essentially like a quick mini course on how to create videos. If you're looking to kind of get yourself out there on video, but don't have a direction on how you want to do it just yet, you can go and take that quick mini course. And one of my big things that I'm working on for this year is YouTube.
Nice.
So I hired a specific team to work on YouTube for me, and my goal is to put out 100 videos on YouTube this year. And I just put up my 15th. I just put up my 15th video already. I started because here's the thing. It was anytime I make a commitment to do something like so for 2024, my commitment is 100 videos on YouTube. I started in December. I don't know. It's not a New Year's resolution. I started in December. So in December, I started putting up the YouTube videos, and I already have 15 on the board.
Man, that's a brilliant way to do it, because we often, we made this New Year resolution and we start on the first week of January, and we never end up doing it. But the way you do it like that is much more easier, because you already start doing it. You get traction, you're going to continue to do that. And you still didn't tell me something. The tools. I love tools, man. What do you use?
We use Riverside FM as one of the tools that we use for our clients. So when people tell me, how do you do this? How do you record? I tell them we do it in a virtual studio. That is the virtual studio, is Riverside FM. It's basically a podcast platform, but it does capture high quality audio, high quality video. So we can actually record our clients inside of Riverside. All of the video editing tools, I know that my team edits on Final Cut Pro. I know that they use some Magic, and I know there's one other tool that they're using as well. To transcribe, Riverside does that as well. So that's how we get people their transcript of their entire recording session with the copywriting and stuff like that, ChatGPT. And actually, I've been using this new AI program called Magi, which is pretty cool. I know the founder of it. And it lets you do text and written images and written AI content. And you can pull from all different AI sources. So you get one subscription, and it gives you access to ChatGPT, and it gives you access to Claude 2, and it gives you access to all of the AI models. And on the image side, it gives you access to DALL-E, and it gives you access to Midjourney, and a couple other ones too. Oh, and if you want to edit videos yourself, CapCut. It's I do not get paid for CapCut, but I will stand by that tool as like the number one tool for video editing for anybody that's trying to do it themselves and really doesn't know how to like edit videos. It makes it so easy.
And speaking of that, if someone wants to start creating videos by themselves, what will be one thing they can do in 1 week in order to do?
Take Danny's video challenge. No, seriously.
That's a brilliant one.
So here's what my 7-day video challenge does. Basically, every day you get one tip to help you learn how to make videos. And you also get one prompt to make a video. So you'll actually get 7 days of videos by the time you're done with the challenge. And the idea is just, again, to go in there and get a little bit better every day. So I cover setting up your studio. I cover whether you should script or whether you should just go off the cuff. I cover basic editing, and I cover how to distribute the video and everything like that. So essentially, it's a mini course that you can get for free. And then also get 7 like pretty good hooks for your videos as well.
Nice. And anyone listening or watching on YouTube, check that description because the links will be there.
Yeah, CoachDannyD.com will take you right to the 7-day video challenge.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Danny. I appreciate every single one of you who listen until the end. And if you like what I'm doing here and you find it useful, it will mean the world to me if you can share it with a friend or subscribe to YouTube. Thank you so much. And until next week, pura vida.